going on, everyone? Today, the S&P 500 was split 50-50 as half the stocks went up in the green and the other half fell lower, but the market ended up positive nonetheless as some of these big tech stocks carried the way. There was a lot of big movement all across the board, and it's only Tuesday, but basically there was a lot that happened today where China actually just announced retaliatory tariffs towards the United States, and Trump is starting to apply some heavy pressure on Iran. Google, AMD, and Snapchat all just reported earnings. Gold prices are at record highs, hitting $2,845 per ounce, and there is a lot of big movement all across the board. In today's video, we're going to cover where the action is at right now and all of the most important information you need to be aware of. And besides that, Tom, we are all set and ready to go.
Yeah, the market was pretty good today overall. You know, the SPY recovered back up in the green by up 0.67% here, so really not terrible, right? Now, I will say it wasn't good this morning to see the gap down, and we got a lot more Trump news, especially here around the end of the day. But Mike, all day long, you know, we've been hearing the news about Trump, and it's been very, I guess, Trump-filled the past few weeks, right? And the price action has been really focused on what Trump is doing. And once again today, we heard a lot about Trump with China. Looks like China is actually countering U.S. tariffs that just went into effect today. Trump was actually set to talk to President Xi today, and then that talk got canceled. I wonder if they'll end up talking sometime in the short-term future, but either way, it looks like we're having another situation here now with China. We talked a lot about Mexico and Canada yesterday, and now we're kind of getting the China side of things flowing a little bit more.
Exactly, and this is definitely pretty interesting because we were able to reach a deal with Mexico and Canada, but China is definitely firing back at least a little bit. So they announced tariffs back towards us that will take effect on February 10th. They also launched an antitrust investigation into Google. They tightened export controls on critical minerals to the United States, and they added 2 U.S. companies to their blacklist of unreliable entities. So basically this is heating up a little bit. Nothing too crazy just yet, but I will say back towards the end of 2018, there was a pretty rough trade war between the United States and China, and the market got pretty bloody during that time. You know, of course, that is like an extreme scenario, but, you know, it's worth looking back on in like historically relevant examples like this one.
Yeah, it really is, because there's a lot of downside pressure that could end up getting fueled from all these headlines. And there's going to be more talks of possibly the trade war getting worse and worse. And if China's just now starting back and they're hitting back at us, like what happens now, right? Like Trump now has to come back and now hit back at them. And then now they're going to be going back and forth. And I'm scared if that goes on for too long in that way. And Mike, you know, just in general, with that overall fear, we're starting to see gold pop off, which is amazing, up to new all-time highs. And the stuff that Trump is doing is just causing so much fear and uncertainty out there in, number one, the geopolitical spectrum, but even in the markets. And it's starting to, you know, cause a lot of shakiness. And I will say I'm definitely watching the VIX very closely in the short term as well for more possible pops in volatility.
Yeah, no doubt. And, you know, like you mentioned, we definitely are seeing a lot of money flow towards safe haven assets right now. If you look at ticker symbol GLD, this follows the price of gold, and it has been uptrending in a very strong but also a very smooth way ever since like the end of December. And this is really awesome to see. So as we've been saying, you know, at least for the past couple weeks now, continue to watch GLD and even like SLV, which follows silver, because there is a lot of money flowing into this. You can also look at like ETFs like GDX, which follows gold mining companies. So definitely keep this on the radar because it's moving up pretty nicely.
It really is, Mike. I know we talk a lot about silver with SLV as well. That one's right around resistance at like 29.50 to 30. We'll be talking about that one a lot more throughout the video coming up here soon. But Trump even has news going on with Iran, Mike, as well. And it's actually, I would say the Iran news got a little weird today as Trump said he's given advisors instructions for Iran to be obliterated if they actually assassinate him, which is a weird thing to say, right? But there has been threats, Iranian threats to Trump, obviously, in the past, and there's been a few things that have happened, but There's a lot going on with Iran, though, here, Mike. I mean, Trump's doing a lot to put like maximum pressure onto them and to try to get their oil exports to zero. Like, he's hitting them pretty hard here in the short term.
Yeah, he signed a presidential memorandum today, like you said, to put maximum pressure on Iran, and he wants those oil exports down to zero to prevent them from getting a nuke. So we'll see what happens there, but there's not as much information with Iran compared to China, Mexico, Canada, and everyone else. But of course, it's just something to keep close on watch. But what definitely moved off of this news was crude oil. So if you pull up a chart of crude oil intraday, you can see that it was selling off to start the morning, and then once this news hit, it went full rocket mode. So if you look at some stocks like ExxonMobil, which is XOM, or Chevron, which is CVX, or even, other stocks like OXY or MPC or SHEL or anything related to like crude oil and energy, they are getting like a pretty nice bid right now, and the price action was like pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was, and I think that there's going to be a lot more of this going on with the Middle East, and a lot of people have really been looking at crude oil over the past few months, and Mike, we've even watched it a ton on the channel here. It's been forming a very nice setup, bouncing off of these lower areas of support and creating lower highs, and it's kind of in the process now of starting to bounce back up. And if this is another good sign of the trend continuing, then this could be a great next few months for crude oil here as we head into the summer, because as we know, as we start to get into the summer months, that's also a good season for oil as well.
Yeah, so either way, definitely keep a close eye on oil and energy-related stocks, because not only is there news driving this move, but it's also just something that has been close on watch for many traders over like the past couple of months, and honestly like the past year or so, and they're starting to get like a pretty nice bid now. We also have a big money related to this, so definitely stick with us towards the end of the video. But talking more about some of the big movement from after hours today, Tom, Google reported earnings, and it's looking pretty bloody.
Yeah, very bloody here. That is one bad move, and they were sitting just above $200. Now they're down under there in a pretty good way, testing like that 190 area. But whenever we start to look at their overall numbers here, I thought personally that their numbers, they didn't really like wow, right? That's really the problem here. And they also announced that they were going to be spending $75 billion investing in capital expenditures. So that's always fun, right? But they're trying to get their AI strategy going. So it might be good investment at the end of the day. But I mean, Mike, like they missed on EPS. You guys can come down here and see all of their revenues. I mean, they do a bunch of stuff, like YouTube revenue beat, but the cloud revenue missed. So like, see, there's like a lot of negatives here. And I think that that's really the problem with these Google earnings, Mike, is that it just didn't wow investors. And then some of these misses obviously are kind of negative to see.
Yeah, and it's not like you said, like it's not like their earnings were bad. They just weren't good enough. And, when we look at Google stock, we're definitely seeing that in after hours. Tom, what would you say are like some key levels to like watch for this one heading into tomorrow? Because, when you have an 8% dip in after hours, it's, certainly not like a great sign.
I'm actually pretty mad at this dip, Mike, because I was loving the way that Google was setting up, and I loved how it was breaking that $200 resistance. We were starting to get some momentum going, and now these earnings are kind of ruining it. But in after hours, it's all the way down to around 190. So as a big area of support for tomorrow, you really have to watch that 190 mark. As we scroll back over the past few trading days, 190 has seen a few bounces. You can see right here where there was a good wick and touch right off that. And then even below there, just a little bit, right around 187 would be the next major support to keep on the radar after that. As far as resistance, I'm mainly just watching 195 and then 200 if there is like a short-term recovery.
Gotcha. And, as we're in earnings season, big moves like we're seeing with Google are to be expected. When we look at Palantir from today, that thing just absolutely crushed it. The stock closed up nearly 25% on the day. So as we are looking at earnings-related setups, keep in mind that you don't always have to play the move before the report. And oftentimes, you can get a lot better reward to risk setups just riding the momentum after the fact. So whether you're looking at Palantir, Google, or any other recent earnings report. Keep in mind that we can see some pretty strong moves for multiple days after the report. So continue to keep a close eye on Google over these next couple days. It'll probably move in a strong way, and Tom already listed some key levels to keep on watch. So definitely keep that in mind. But Tom, we also had some interesting moves from AMD and Snapchat too.
Advanced Money Destroyer lives up to its name in the after hours today, falling down a little bit more. I'm watching 115 as support. It started to give out here, so that's a bad sign to see. And then there was also a recent low right around 113 that also broke a little bit. So AMD is not looking too good, but their numbers were actually pretty decent here. Again, though, Mike, they just didn't wow. So like at the headline, it sounds really good, right? They posted this Q4 earnings beat. They have a strong forecast. To me, I think that the Q1 being a strong forecast is a really good sign. But whenever you start to scroll down and you start to actually read through some of these numbers, like their EPS came right in line at 1.09, so right in line with expectations there. And then the revenue beat by 0.06 billion, coming in at 7.56 billion versus 7.5. So it was kind of just more of in line than like a huge beat, like what the headlines are kind of I would say misguiding people with here.
Gotcha. So yeah, again, it's like AMD, they definitely dropped the ball as they have been over the past year, and their stock has just been brutal. Like, of course, they're certainly looking a lot better than Intel, but gosh, this trend has been brutal. And, you know, looking at this one, Tom, like, what are the key levels to watch at this point? Because, like, it's getting very close to, like, some of these lower support levels.
It is, and 113 is a huge lower support from the short term, and I've really been watching this whole entire like $115 range. If AMD starts to break below here, I mean, I'm really going to be watching for like $100 coming up after this. Like, it's going to be that brutal for AMD if we do see these lower areas of support break, but that area of support is right around 113. There's been a lot of bounces right around this range, so keep this area very close on the radar for the next couple of days.
All right, sounds great. And then with the last one, we have Snapchat, but surprise, surprise, this one is actually up in the green.
Yeah, how is this even possible with the other two reports the way that they are? But good movement here by Snapchat, Mike. And looking at some of their numbers, they actually missed revenue, beat EPS. So it's a bit mixed here on their numbers. But at the end of the day, they beat on the global daily active users, and revenue was up 14% year over year. So there's a couple good headlines there, and I think that traders are really running with the daily active users beating expectations. I think that's a great sign.
Yeah, their global daily active users came in at 453 million compared to a 451 million estimate. So it's nice to beat, and it's also nice to post strong numbers like that. So keep a close eye on Snapchat for tomorrow. Snapchat is one of those stocks where, you know, when it has momentum, it definitely has the ability to like run and trend for like extended periods of time. In after hours right now, they have good momentum, but of course they are pulling back a little bit. What are like the most important levels to watch with this one?
Yeah, I really like this $13 area. It did run a little bit higher than that, though, up to around $13.40. But I think with Snapchat, you really have to go out to a daily chart, because the thing with Snap is that they've been kind of channeling here, and it's a big daily channel as well. And they're right at the top of it right now. So keep your eyes on that $12.80 to $13 area. Like I said, they even got a little bit above $13 in the past on that wick right there, and then ended up rejecting. So definitely watch that very closely. As far as support, I really like the lower end of this range, around $10.50 to $11. So that's really what I'm watching for, Mike, is just this overall range on Snapchat.
There we go. And then, Tom, we can't forget about the earnings lineup for tomorrow either. So we have Uber, Disney, and Novo set to report before the bell tomorrow. And then we have Ford, Qualcomm, and ARM set to report after the market closes tomorrow. So keep that in mind. And then on Thursday, don't forget we have that action with Eli Lilly, Roblox, Amazon, Elf, Cloudflare, and others. So we're definitely set for a pretty exciting rest of the week. And then shifting over to the economic schedule, we do have some ISM services data PMI set to release 30 minutes after market open tomorrow, so keep this close on watch. This won't be like the craziest economic data ever, but if it does come in outside expectations, it definitely does have market moving potential. And then on Friday, we have unemployment data set to release before the bell, 1 hour before the bell, as well as some Michigan consumer sentiment 30 minutes after open. But besides that, Tom, we are all clear with the schedule. So what are the SPY levels and charts looking like?
Yeah, the SPY has been very interesting over the past few days. We've been starting to really recover back up, but I would say today it was more of slow and choppy than anything, especially around the middle to the end of the day. The morning recovery, though, actually made for some really good price action, but we talked about this a lot yesterday. $600 and then 602 to 603 are going to continue to be on watch. You can see over the past couple days, this $602 resistance has ended up holding up in an amazing way. So until SPY breaks 602, I'm not going to be overly bullish until, we get above there. For tomorrow, we're sitting right around 600. I noticed today there was some pretty good support around 598.50 to 598, and then especially down around 596. So if we start to break under like 596 tomorrow, which is the low in pre-market today, that's where I'll start to become a bit more bearish, and I'll even target 590, which is an amazing recent low. But that's kind of what I'm watching for with the SPY. We need to kind of get out of this zone that it's been stuck in over the past couple trading days, and that 602 resistance is going to be very important.
There we go. I think one of the biggest, most important things in the market lately has been this Trump news. Every single day, something happens, whether it's a deal with Mexico or Trump talking about Iran or anything else, and it has a real market moving potential and to very large magnitude. So I cannot stress the importance of paying attention to the news in this market because it is affecting everything from individual stocks to commodities like gold, oil, silver, and everything else. But that's been the story lately.
It really has, Mike, and focusing in on that is a great way to go. And a lot of people are like, well, hey, how can we get that type of Trump news like that? I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there on X and Twitter. I know, obviously, Trump is on Truth Social, right? Ticker symbol DJT. Don't forget about that. But I figured I'd bring up DJT, Mike, because we were talking about, Trump so much lately. I'm surprised that DJT hasn't had a little bit more positive price action in the short term here, with everything going on. But at the end of the day, this is a pretty wild stock, too.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's its own little version of Advanced Money Destroyer, but in a much earlier stage. But we'll see what happens. And besides that, let's get right to the good stuff, which are some setups and predictions. A stock that is definitely on my radar is SLV, and it is to the upside. So we talked about this stock a bit in recent videos in a bullish way, and it has been moving up strongly. Precious metals are getting a lot of inflows into them as uncertainty and fear is building. Gold prices are at record highs. Silver prices are not, but they definitely are increasing alongside gold prices. SLV is definitely on my bullish radar, not only for tomorrow, but even over these next couple of weeks as more and more money flows into precious metals.
Yeah, this is looking awesome in the short term, Mike. I'll definitely be watching it as well. I know we're talking a lot about commodities and metals, so I might as well go with my first play, which is ZOM, Exxon and Mobil. And with ZOM, there's actually an amazing trend line here on the daily chart with this one that looks really awesome. It's been very consistent as well, and we're seeing, once again, another bounce off of this trend. So I'm going to keep watching this trend on the daily. We've seen some really good bounces and recoveries off of this. Like I said, it's pretty damn consistent with ZOM off of this. So, and there's actionable news in the short term with the whole Trump-Iran situation. So I'm going to keep watching for more positive price action in the short term. Even if we see a dip tomorrow, I'm really just looking for more of an overall recovery over the next few weeks off of some of this news. And I think it's going to get a little bit crazier with some of these headlines, especially with some of the countries over in the Middle East. But for right now, I really do like 105 as a stop area on ZOM. If we see ZOM start to pull back under this wick from recent, then I'll start to be a little bit bearish, and that's where maybe you could have some stops. But I do think holding ZOM up here off of this support could be a good way to go in the short term.
Sounds good. And another thing with this one, Tom, is we could see in that bottom right corner, it has a pretty weak correlation to SPY, which definitely helps in situations like this one. So good stuff there. And another stock that is close on watch for me is XLF, and it is to the downside. This basically follows like financial stocks all under one ticker symbol. And we saw a pretty hard rejection off of that like $52 area in the short term. And the price action has been very weak relative to everything else in the short term. For that reason, it's definitely on my bearish radar, and I'm expecting like this to be like a bearish swing trade. We could see off its most recent rejection towards like the beginning half of December. It peaked out and then like ended up pulling back for a couple weeks at a time, and I'm looking for a move somewhat similar to this one. I would like to see the stock stay below that $52 resistance and put as much pressure on its recent lows as possible.
Yeah, it looks awesome. That's a big resistance there on XLF. I'll definitely be watching for the possible rejection on this one. And a lot of the banks have been starting to run up into resistance as well. With my next setup, I'm looking at Meta here. And with Meta, I'm looking at it really in both directions. I'm watching this key $700 support. Like if I see Meta just rip under $700 tomorrow, I'm definitely going to be watching it to the downside. Don't get me wrong there. But on the Bookmap, I really like this overhead resistance as well, up around 710. And I'm really looking for a possible breakout of this overhead resistance at 710, and then for Meta to continue to go on this amazing run that it's been on. But we're going to need to see these tech stocks be a little bit more positive for tomorrow. But I wanted to show this because it's definitely a huge sell wall that is overhead. There would be more sellers at 700, but since Meta traded around 700 today, you know, the volatility kind of wiped all those buyers and sellers out. But I'm definitely going to still, though, watch for that possible $700 break tomorrow as well.
All right, sounds good, Tom. I will also keep a close eye on this one as well. And besides that, it is now about that time for today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have Spotify to the upside.
SPOT, if they can go ahead and break $624, then keep watching Spotify to the upside. It had a pretty good run today following their earnings and popped up 13%.
All right, with the next one, we have XYZ to the downside.
The old square, now block, right? 4.47%. This one probably confuses some people, but if it breaks under 85.85, then keep watching it down. That's right around the low of day today.
All right, and now with the last one, we have HIMS to the upside, and this one has been crushing it.
Had to do it again because HIMS just keeps going. Like, look at this amazing and consistent price action at open every single day, like where we're seeing amazing breakouts happen. For tomorrow, if we see $42 break, keep watching for the trend to continue. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, there we go. So we have HIMS on watch for a potential move to the upside along with Spotify. And then we have XYZ on watch for a potential move to the downside. These three stocks are only potential plays if they break the levels listed. Have stop losses to protect yourself like with any trade, and it is especially important in volatile, momentum, trend-following setups like these ones. Adjust and flow with the trends as they unfold, as always. But besides that, Tom, we actually have two multi-million-dollar big money trades today. And with the first one, we are looking at MPC. Today, the big money put $1.25 million into the 160 strike call options that expire on July 18th of 2025. MPC had a great day today as oil prices popped. The big money is buying these call options that are pretty close to the money and have a fair amount of time to them. It's a pretty heavy trade, and the stock has been reversing to the upside pretty strongly over these past couple of weeks. So definitely keep a close eye on this one.
Yeah, it has quite a bit of time, too, out to July 18th, so just keep that in mind, too, guys. Like, I know oil did great today and everything, but the big money trader in this scenario is probably looking for it to go up more over the next few weeks, and I would even say, like, on my own analysis here, I really like this resistance coming up around 160, and I think that as MPC hits this resistance, it might slow up a little bit before finally getting the overall breakout to happen, but just realize that they have a little bit of time to this, so, like, if that happens, they're not really really worried about that. But oil has been so crazy in the short term, Mike, and it's just amazing to see some of these good recoveries starting to take place. And of course, it happens as the SPY is shaky, right? Because as we know, that strong negative correlation can be a bit weird sometimes. But whenever the market gets crazy like this, it can actually benefit you in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and when you zoom out even more, Tom, you'll see that this stock has definitely been, in a dip over like the past couple of months at least. So we'll see what this one can do and definitely keep it close on watch. But with the next one, we are looking at a $2.18 million trade with ticker symbol SLV. The big money bought the 31 strike calls that expire on May 16th of 2025. For my advanced traders out there, this is technically a call debit spread where they also shorted the 36 strike calls, but this is a bullish trade where they want SLV to go up. This follows silver prices, and it's been moving pretty strongly as we've talked about numerous times throughout the video. It's getting closer and closer to its recent highs, right around like that $32 area, and it should be a fun ticker to watch in the short term.
Yeah, if we start to get to 32, it's going to be amazing for SLV, and the big money is going to look great if that happens, right? We've seen some pretty good ones with gold lately. We're back on January 9th. The big money pretty much sniped gold on the way up there, so I'll definitely be watching SLV very closely here. Now, I will say this, SLV does seem to be at some pretty big resistance here in the short term, but it's tested it already a few times, and, resistances are made to be broken at the end of the day, and it's kind of been stuck around this area now for like half of a year. So I would not be surprised if we started to see resistance give out a little bit more in the short term.
Yeah, and I think the more geopolitical events and tensions and news that we have, the more SLV and just like even other commodities have to gain. So we'll see what happens, but the current trend of geopolitical news has been pretty good for precious metals. So that's definitely good to see. So keep SLV close on watch. And on a side note, if you guys are new to the Stocked Up YouTube channel, consider obliterating that subscribe button to get our videos recommended to you more often. It takes us hours to make these videos, and we cover all the most important news, information, earnings, chart setups, big money plays, and everything you have to know about in around 20 to 25 minutes or less. If you subscribe, you'll get our videos recommended to you more often. And we also have to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Austin Chabs in the Stocked Up Discord, who crushed it. He said Green Day number 3 and posted a nice $2,000 day there. So huge shout out to you and keep on rolling. And Tom, I have to say it was a crazy day in the Profits channel as there were a ton of gains all across the board. So shout out to everyone and keep on rolling. It's awesome to see posts like these ones. Besides that, Tom, I think we're set for a pretty exciting rest of the week. We're seeing a lot of action on many different fronts, so we definitely should see some pretty big movement. Don't forget, we have the earnings later in the week as well, so feel free to screenshot this here to save it. And besides that, thank you all so much for watching, and let's crush it in the market tomorrow.